In the vast emptiness of space where starlight danced between crystalline structures of an ancient meeting chamber, humanity faced its final judgment. The room pulsed with an otherworldly energy, a living architecture that seemed to breathe, with the collective consciousness of beings beyond human comprehension. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood alone, her slim frame a stark contrast to the towering alien representatives surrounding her. She wore a simple gray uniform, crisp and unremarkable, but her eyes burned with an intensity that caught the attention of even the most detached alien observer. The chamber was unlike anything humans had ever imagined. Walls shifted like liquid, mercury responding to unspoken thoughts. Alien representatives existed as shimmering forms, some translucent, others appearing like living geometric patterns that defied traditional understanding of physical matter. Humanity, a voice echoed not from any particular direction but everywhere at once. You stand accused of planetary destruction, technological recklessness, and complete disregard for cosmic ecological balance. Elena remained calm. Behind her, a small team of human representatives watched with held breath. Jay Park, the ecological engineer, gripped a data tablet so tightly his knuckles turned white. Sung Lee, their quantum biology specialist, calculated probabilities in his mind, knowing the odds were monumentally against them. The primary adjudicator, a being composed of interconnected light patterns, projected holographic images of Earth's environmental history. Forests reduced to wasteland, oceans choked with plastic, atmospheric composition dramatically altered. Each image was a damning piece of evidence against human civilization. Your species has consumed more resources in 2 centuries than most civilizations consume in 10,000 years, another voice proclaimed. This one sounded like multiple tones overlapping, creating a haunting musical statement of condemnation. Elena knew her response could determine not just her fate, but the fate of every human being. Millions of years of human evolution, thousands of years of cultural development, countless individual stories all hanging by a thread. We acknowledge our mistakes, she began, her voice steady, but we are also capable of extraordinary transformation. The aliens seemed to pause, their collective consciousness processing her words. Holographic data streams swirled around her, analyzing her biological responses, scanning her neural patterns for any hint of deception. Jay Park stepped forward, breaking protocol. We are not just a destructive species, he said. We are problem solvers. We adapt. We learn. A moment of silence followed. The kind of silence that feels heavy with potential, like a storm about to break. The primary adjudicator's form shifted, becoming more defined. Your species has 2 choices: complete extinction, or an impossible mission of planetary restoration. Elena didn't hesitate. We accept the mission. Murmurs rippled through the alien representatives. Not sounds exactly, but waves of cognitive communication that suggested surprise, skepticism, and a hint of something else, perhaps respect. A holographic projection materialized, showing a distant planet. Its surface was a dead gray, completely devoid of life. Radiation levels were off the charts. Previous advanced civilizations had attempted restoration and failed spectacularly. You will restore this world, the adjudicator stated. Not just repair it, but create a living, breathing ecosystem that can sustain complex life forms. You have 5 standard cosmic cycles. The implications were clear. Failure meant not just human extinction, but complete removal of their species from galactic records. Success meant a chance at redemption. Elena looked at her team. Jay, Sung, and Kang Wu, each representing different scientific disciplines, each carrying the hopes of an entire species. We are ready, she said simply. The alien representatives began to dissolve, their forms becoming less substantial. But before they disappeared completely, one final message resonated through the chamber. Prove your worth, or cease to exist. The transport ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and the first glimpse of the dying planet took everyone's breath away. It was nothing like the holographic projection they had seen during the tribunal. Reality was far more devastating. J. Park's initial scans revealed a world that looked like a broken mirror, fractured landscapes of gray and dead brown stretching across endless horizons. Radiation levels were so high that standard protective suits would barely provide minimal protection. The planet looked more like a massive grave than a potential ecosystem. "This is impossible," Sung Lee muttered, his fingers dancing across multiple holographic displays. Each reading confirmed what they already knew. No life could survive here. Previous alien restoration attempts had left nothing but scars and silent devastation. Kang Wu, the mission coordinator, walked to the observation deck. His reflection looked back at him, a tired man carrying the weight of an entire species' hope. Humanity's last chance was sitting right outside the ship's transparent walls. "We have 5 cosmic cycles," he reminded the team. "That's approximately 3 Earth years." The planet had no name. It was simply designated as Restoration Target Alpha 9, a world that had been considered beyond saving by countless advanced civilizations. Its core was unstable, its atmosphere toxic, and its surface comprised of layers of chemical residue that defied standard restoration protocols. Hyun Kim, their quantum biology specialist, began preparing initial mapping protocols. Her hands moved, with precision, creating intricate 3-dimensional models that showed the planet's complex devastation. Each layer revealed more complexity: underground chemical reactions, radiation-induced mutations, and total ecosystem collapse. "We're not just fixing a planet," Hyun explained to her teammates. "We're essentially trying to resurrect a dead world." Their first landing was carefully planned. A small reconnaissance module would test surface conditions and collect critical data. As the module descended, everyone watched with held breath. The ship's advanced sensors recorded every microscopic detail. The landing was rough. Dust clouds of radioactive particles erupted around the module, creating a landscape that looked more like a nightmare than a potential home. Initial readings were grim. Temperature variations were extreme. Chemical compositions were completely unstable, and no organic matter showed any potential for regeneration. "This is worse than we imagined," Jay said, analyzing the first data streams. The previous restoration attempts didn't just fail. They essentially murdered this planet. Each alien civilization that had tried to restore the world had used traditional technological approaches. They had applied massive energy transformations, attempted chemical rebalancing, and used advanced radiation scrubbing techniques. But they had treated the planet like a machine, not a living system. The human team saw something different. Where other civilizations saw a problem to be solved, they saw a complex organism waiting to be understood. Kang pulled up historical restoration, logs from previous alien attempts. Each one followed a similar pattern: massive technological interventions that ultimately failed. They had approached planetary restoration like a mathematical equation, forgetting that ecosystems were living, breathing networks of interconnected life. "We need a different approach," Elena said, reviewing the initial data. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed a fierce determination that had impressed the alien tribunal. Their technology was different: adaptive nanomachines that could learn, quantum entanglement protocols that could rebuild cellular structures, biomimetic algorithms that understood ecological systems as living, evolving networks. As night fell on their first day, the team gathered in their compact research station. Outside, the planet looked silent and dead, but they saw potential where others had seen only destruction. "We're going to bring this world back to life," Elena said. Her statement wasn't a hope. It was a promise. The first phase of their impossible mission had begun. Humanity's ultimate test of survival was now fully underway, with everything hanging in the balance. The research station hummed with quiet intensity. Screens flickered with complex data, streams, showing layers of planetary information that no previous civilization had ever comprehended. Hyun Kim stood at the center, her fingers moving across holographic interfaces like a conductor leading an invisible orchestra. "Traditional restoration fails because it treats planets like machines," she explained to her teammates. "We're going to treat this world like a living organism. Their first breakthrough came unexpectedly. Instead of trying to neutralize the toxic chemical layers, Sungli developed nanomachines that could actually consume and transform the harmful substances. These weren't simple robots, but adaptive systems that could learn and modify themselves based on environmental feedback. J. Park's ecological models showed something remarkable. Where previous attempts had used direct energy interventions, the human team was creating a complex network of interconnected restoration protocols. They weren't just cleaning the planet, they were teaching it how to heal itself. The alien monitoring systems, still observing from distant space stations, began to show increased activity. Something unexpected was happening. Small changes appeared. First, microscopic organisms began to emerge in areas where previously nothing could survive. These weren't just simple life forms. They were complex, adaptive systems that could survive in extreme conditions. Elena Rodriguez tracked the progress carefully. Each minor change was a victory. Where other civilizations saw a dead world, they saw a patient waiting to be awakened. Their approach was radical. Instead of massive technological interventions, they used subtle, interconnected strategies. Quantum entanglement protocols allowed them to understand the planet's deepest ecological networks. Biomimetic algorithms helped them design restoration, techniques that mimicked natural healing processes. Kang Wu discovered something extraordinary in the geological data. The planet's core wasn't dead, it was dormant. Previous civilizations had attempted to restart it using direct energy methods. The human team realized they needed a gentler approach. "We're not forcing the planet to change," Hyun explained during a team briefing. "We're creating conditions that allow it to heal itself." Specialized nanomachines began their work. Some absorbed radiation, converting harmful energy into usable nutrients. Others broke down toxic chemical compounds, transforming them into building blocks for potential life forms. The first visible signs of change came 3 months into their mission. A small patch of ground, no larger than a human hand, showed the beginnings of microbial life. It was barely noticeable, but to the team, it was a miracle. Alien monitoring systems began sending increasingly confused signals. The restoration was happening in ways they couldn't predict or understand. The human team wasn't following any known scientific protocol. Sung Lee's adaptive technologies played a crucial role. Each nanomachine was like a tiny learner, collecting information and adapting its approach constantly. They weren't just cleaning the planet, they were understanding it. By the 4th month, larger changes became apparent. Underground water systems began to show signs of purification. Chemical compositions started shifting. The planet's atmospheric layers began to stabilize in small but significant ways. "We're not just restoring," Elena told her team during a late-night strategy session. "We're teaching the planet how to live again." The alien observers watched with increasing confusion and curiosity. The humans were doing something impossible. They were approaching planetary restoration with something that looked suspiciously like empathy. Each team member brought a unique perspective. Jay's understanding of complex ecological systems, Hyun's quantum biology insights, Sung's adaptive technological approaches, Kang's strategic coordination, Elena's holistic vision. They weren't just scientists, they were planetary healers. As the first small plants began to emerge in carefully prepared test zones, the team realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. This wasn't just restoration, this was resurrection. The planet began to change, in ways no one expected. What started as microscopic shifts became something extraordinary. Life emerged slowly, carefully, like a whisper growing into a song. Hyun Kim watched the first complex organisms develop. They weren't just simple life forms. They were adaptive systems that could survive in impossible conditions. Each microscopic creature carried the memory of environmental challenges, evolving faster than any biological system previously observed. J. Park's ecological models couldn't explain what was happening. The planet was rewriting its own biological rules. Underground networks of microorganisms began communicating in patterns that defied traditional scientific understanding. They weren't just surviving, they were rebuilding entire ecological systems from almost nothing. Elena Rodriguez tracked the transformation with a mixture of scientific precision and something closer to wonder. The alien monitoring systems were sending increasingly confused signals. Humanity was doing something that broke every known scientific protocol. Small patches of ground began showing signs of vegetation. First, tiny moss-like structures appeared, then more complex plant forms. These weren't just standard plants, they were hybrid organisms that could absorb radiation, transform toxic chemicals, and create oxygen in environments that should have been completely dead. Sung Lee's adaptive nanomachines had become something more than technology. They were now functioning like a complex immune system for the entire planet. Some transformed harmful radiation into usable energy. Others broke down toxic compounds, creating nutrients for emerging life forms. The transformation wasn't linear. It was messy, unpredictable, full of sudden bursts of unexpected growth. Underground water systems began to clear. Chemical compositions shifted. Atmospheric layers started to stabilize in ways that made no sense to traditional scientific models. Kang Wu monitored the alien observation systems. Their signals showed increasing confusion and something that looked remarkably like excitement. The humans were doing something impossible. They were bringing a dead world back to life through a method that looked suspiciously like healing. By the 5th month, entire regions showed signs of complex ecosystem development. Areas that were previously nothing more than radioactive dust now supported intricate networks of microorganisms. Plants began to develop that could survive in extreme conditions, creating oxygen and transforming the planet's environmental structure. The team worked with a combination of scientific precision and something closer to intuition. They weren't just applying technology. They were listening to the planet. Each intervention was carefully designed to support natural recovery, not to force a specific outcome. Alien monitoring stations began sending increasingly urgent communication requests. Their scientific models couldn't comprehend what was happening. The humans were breaking every known rule of planetary restoration. "We're not fixing the planet," Elena explained during a team meeting. "We're helping it remember how to live." Their approach was fundamentally different from previous restoration attempts. Where other civilizations saw a problem to be solved, the human team saw a living system waiting to be understood. They weren't applying external solutions. They were creating conditions for natural recovery. Remarkable transformations began to appear. Areas that were completely dead started showing complex ecological networks. Underground systems began to develop that could filter and purify water. Atmospheric layers started to stabilize, creating conditions for more complex life forms. The first signs of larger organisms appeared. Small insect-like creatures emerged, adapted to the harsh environmental conditions. They weren't just surviving. They were thriving in an environment that should have been completely hostile to life. By the end of the 6th month, entire regions of the planet showed complex ecosystem development. What was once a dead, radioactive wasteland was becoming a living, breathing world. The alien observation systems were now in a state of complete confusion. The humans were doing something that defied every known scientific protocol. They weren't just restoring a planet. They were helping it come alive in ways no one had ever imagined possible. The final assessment day arrived with a tension that could be cut with a knife. Alien observers gathered from across multiple star systems, their energy forms flickering with anticipation and disbelief. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of the massive holographic display, her team behind her. The planet they had been tasked to restore now looked nothing like the dead world they had first encountered. Life burst from every possible surface. Complex ecosystems, intricate biological networks, and an atmosphere that hummed with possibility. The primary alien adjudicator, a being of pure energy and mathematical precision, began the evaluation. Holographic data streams swirled around the human team, analyzing every microscopic detail of their planetary restoration. "Impossible," one alien representative muttered, though the sound was more like a vibration of pure thought. J. Park's ecological model showed something extraordinary. The planet wasn't just restored, it had become a living blueprint for planetary regeneration. Each ecosystem was interconnected, adaptive, capable of healing and growing in ways that defied previous scientific understanding. Yoon Kim's quantum biology readings revealed the true miracle. The planet's core was no longer dormant, but alive with potential. Underground water systems now supported complex microbiological networks. Atmospheric layers had stabilized to support increasingly complex life forms. The alien tribunal watched in stunned silence. Sung Lee's adaptive technologies had transformed from simple restoration tools to a complex planetary immune system. The nanomachines were now integrated into the planet's biological networks, working seamlessly with emerging life forms. "You were given an impossible task," the primary adjudicator stated. Its voice resonated through the chamber like distant thunder. "Restore a world that has resisted restoration by multiple advanced civilizations." Kang Wu stepped forward, holding a comprehensive data report. The transformation wasn't just complete, it was miraculous. Areas that were previously nothing, more than radioactive wasteland, now supported diverse ecosystems. Plants that could survive in extreme conditions, underground networks that could purify and regenerate resources. The alien observers began to understand something profound. Humanity's approach was fundamentally different from any previous restoration attempt. They hadn't just applied technology. They had approached the planet with something that looked remarkably like empathy. Elena's final presentation was simple, but powerful. She showed how each intervention was designed to support natural recovery, not to force a specific outcome. Where other civilizations saw a problem to be solved, humans saw a living system waiting to be understood. Holographic displays showed the planet's transformation, from a dead, radioactive world to a complex living ecosystem. The change was so dramatic that it challenged everything the alien civilizations knew about planetary restoration. "We do not just restore," Elena explained. "We help worlds remember how to live." The tribunal's energy pattern shifted, a sign of profound recalculation. Humanity was no longer just a destructive species. They were planetary healers, capable of understanding complex systems in ways no other civilization had ever imagined. Final assessments confirmed what the team already knew. The planet was not just restored. It was more alive than it had been in millions of years. Complex life forms were emerging. Ecosystems were developing. The world was breathing, growing, evolving. "Humanity is hereby pardoned," the primary adjudicator announced. The words carried the weight of cosmic judgment. "More than that, you are invited to become crucial members of the galactic community." Tears formed in Elena's eyes, not just for the scientific achievement, but for what it meant for her entire species. Humanity had been given a chance to prove its worth, and they had done more than anyone could have imagined. The team embraced their celebration, quiet but profound. They had not just completed a mission, they had transformed a dead world into a living, breathing ecosystem. They had shown that humanity's greatest strength was not technological power, but the ability to understand, heal, and create. As the alien tribunal dissolved, one final message resonated through the chamber.